Sales leaders often tell me that they create sales training of some kind for their team, but then they complain that salespeople won't participate, they won't attend, or they schedule over it, or they don't engage. Well, here's the bad news. You're the problem. The good news is we're going to fix it today. This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. Welcome to Sales Untraining. I'm Kelly Riggs. It is your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. Hey, would you do me a favor? Take a moment, subscribe to the podcast, get it coming into your favorite podcast listening station through your favorite podcast platform, whatever it might be. And if you have an opportunity, share it with somebody who can get in on this conversation about how we improve the system for training salespeople. Well, listen, I've got to add to the sales dumpster fire catalog today because it is amazing how often I talk to sales leaders and we're discussing training and development and those kinds of things, and they get a little bit dejected and say, the problem today is I set up training, I set up sales training, product training, whatever training it is, and salespeople just don't attend. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, sales training don't attend. Now, or salespeople don't attend, but that's not as common. But what is really common is, we have a real problem getting our salespeople to training because they've got appointments and, they've got to meet with customers and all of these kinds of things. That's problem number 2. Problem number 3, my people just don't seem to engage. They're not in it. I can tell by the body language. They're kind of rolling their eyes or they're falling asleep, whatever the case may be. And they say, it's just not the same out there anymore. Well, I'm not going to disagree with that statement because in many ways, I think there are scenarios where people are just not as motivated or driven to be self-initiated and do the things they need to do to be great at their profession. You know what's interesting about sales, and of course this is not news to you, but I consider this to be a profession, and I consider the professionals in this profession to be extraordinary. When you look at the data, 5-6% of all salespeople are elite. That's your professionals. You've got another, 15% or so that could be way better with good training, but regularly 3 out of 4 are not good. Bottom 25%, according to the data, well, they're just hopeless. Their words, not mine, the people that do the research. But I agree with that. And a big part of that is clearly motivation. People will get into sales for a variety of reasons. And I've been around long enough that I can remember when people would say, well, when people can't do anything else, they get into sales. There was a level of truth to that. People have trouble getting a job, or they didn't have a degree or a certification, or they weren't in a professional industry or in the trades or something like that. Well, you could get a job as a salesperson if you could, dress decently and articulate some thoughts and fog a mirror. You know what I mean? Yeah, you could get on as a salesperson, especially at a car dealership or something like that. It's not as much that way today, but the reality is, the barrier to entry to sales is virtually non-existent. Sure, to get into medical sales, for example, they'll say you have to have experience and you need to do some things. And, to get into financial industry selling, you've certainly got to have the right licenses and all that. But by and large, to be a salesperson, generally speaking, the big bell curve, the big middle of the bell curve, you don't need anything. No certifications, no training, no development. You just have to be able to impress someone in an interview. What's worse is, unlike other professions, there's no continuing education. There's no CEUs to be gained, in any kind of process. So what you're dealing with, the problem you're dealing with as a sales leader, is if you don't hire the right kind of people, this is one of the problems you're going to experience. people are going to ho-hum and yawn at training, and they act like they already know what to do, and they're working hard. After all, they're working hard, don't you know? I mean, they're putting in 45, 50 hours, allegedly, working hard, and yet they're not dedicated to the profession. So as a sales leader, I mentioned in the open, you're the problem. I'm the problem? I thought you just said, Kelly, that they're not self-initiated, they're not motivated, they're not driven. True. But A, you hired them. B, you're their leader. And the leader sets the tone and the culture and the expectations for who we are. And the moment you allow any of those problems, I don't attend, I schedule over, or I'm not engaged, you become the problem. Because a good leader's just not going to allow it. Now, listen, don't hear me saying that they get up in people's faces, they're micromanagers, they got this rigid military discipline. No, not at all. First off, when I'm hiring someone, I'm going to communicate to them the kind of leader that I am and what my expectations are. And frankly, Mr. Candidate, they're not negotiable. Mrs. Candidate, this is how we do things. This is the kind of people we are. And if that doesn't fit your style, hey, no harm, no foul. It's not for everybody. But please don't say yes if we make you an offer, because we're not going to bring anyone in that's not dedicated to self-improvement. And, part of the interview process is to find out how they've demonstrated that in the past. It is shocking how few salespeople read books. Yeah, it is amazing to me today how often people go, well, I don't read. I don't read. I don't have the attention span. I've got, learning disability and issues and all that. In some cases, rare cases, that's absolutely true. People have learning disabilities. In most cases, it's a lack of motivation. It's a lack of self-discipline, and they're making excuses. They would rather play video games or watch videos or stream reels on TikTok or whatever the case may be. Don't hear me criticizing. Whatever you do, that's fine with me. I'm talking about where it meets my role, my opportunity in selling for my company. I need the right kind of people. Now, some of you are screaming at me, well, yeah, I don't like to read, but Kelly, I listen to podcasts like yours. Well, thank you. I watch YouTube videos, TED Talks. Fantastic. I don't care how you ingest the learning, but I will tell you this. The research is pretty overwhelming that the more you read, the more it impacts so many things physiologically, psychologically, intellectually, your ability to speak more effectively, write more effectively, grow your vocabulary, articulate your thoughts, remember things more effectively. You are what you put into your mind. That's not an original thought. It's been said by Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and probably everybody else. Those guys, I started hearing that when I was in my 20s, way back when. You are what you put into your mind. And so the people that I surround myself with, that talk to me, the things that I watch, read, don't watch, binge watch, all of those things impact who I am. All right? Rant over, no preaching. My point is, if you want to change the culture of your sales team, then it's going to be dependent upon you. The first thing you need to do, obviously, is you need to make it clear these are the kind of people we are, and when you hire people, you need to be very clear about what those expectations are. You need a roadmap for development. I'm shocked at how often, and I mean it's so consistent, how often I work with clients. They have no specific training track for salespeople. They don't have requirements and benchmarks and milestones. Here's where you need to be at certain parts of your first year, your first 6 months, your first 6 weeks, your over the course of your career. It's not individualized. So we're complaining about people when we're not investing in them, we're not challenging them, we're not spending time helping them develop that training plan. But what we do is create some training, throw it out there and go, all right, you guys need to get after it. Well, how's that working out for you? Well, if your people don't participate, it's because you're not creating those really specific expectations for them. And there's a whole process to creating an onboarding program that consistently and predictably takes your people to milestones of improvement, both on the product side, which we tend to do, and on the selling skills side, sales process side, sales planning side, which we tend not to do. So my first rule of thumb is I'm not going to hire you if you're not dedicated to the concept of learning. If you're not self-initiated, you don't like to learn, you can't flip a switch and decide, hey, yeah, that's who I want to be. I just need somebody to guide me. I want to invest in me. I'm in. Just tell me what to do. If I can find those people, then I'm going to be interested. Using pre-hire assessments the way we do, utilizing objective management group, we're able to identify very quickly strong points and weak points and places where we can immediately target training to impact that individual right now. That should be a part of the game plan. But beyond that, here's a pro tip. Take one of the very excellent sales books that are out there. Take your team through it, one chapter at a time, one section at a time. Have a group get together, once a month, once every 2 weeks for a 30 to 60 minute call where everyone discusses the key points they've taken out of it, how they feel like they're going to apply it, what they're going to do differently. You're the responsible party. You're the leader. Listen, if you've got an underperforming team, it's not your team's fault. It's your fault. You hire them. You're responsible to train them. You are the leader. And don't hear me saying micromanagement and all that kind of nonsense. I'm talking about being effective in the leadership role, which frankly is a dumpster fire in and of itself, because we hire people and put them in these roles and we don't train them and create the expectation that it's a completely different skill set. Well, listen, coming up, an absolutely critical aspect of sales training you just don't want to overlook. Stay with me. Thanks for joining me on Sales Untraining. It's not unusual for me to get a call or an email from someone saying, hey, I've got a question about a specific sales challenge that I'm experiencing. Do you ever take calls just to kick around some ideas? Well, typically the answer is, wow, I wish I had the time to do that, but I've decided to actually set that time aside now for a limited time to take some very specific calls just to talk about a specific sales challenge. What you can do is go to blkr.co/30. Go to that URL, you'll find my calendar, book a 30-minute call, and we'll talk about a specific sales challenge that you have in mind. Outside of the chain of command, you just need an outside perspective. Well, that's what I'm for, and we can have that conversation. Look, no selling, not interested in any of that. This is all about you. Let's talk about something that's going on in your world. The last time I did this was last fall, and I booked over 25 conversations with people, and they were fantastic conversations about very specific sales challenges. If you want to have a conversation, talk about a specific challenge to you, blkr.co/30. Now back to the show. How many times are we looking at symptoms and failing to address root cause problems? What good does it do your team to learn how to answer objections more effectively if they're not talking to decision makers? What good does it do your team to handle objections more effectively if they haven't done good discovery and don't understand what some of the significant reasons for buying are, if they don't understand the motivations behind the buying process, if they don't know those challenges that the buyer really wants to address? Welcome back to Sales Untraining. Great to have you as we talk about sales dumpster fire number 5. And I don't even know how this exists. It's foreign to me, but it's so common in conversation, and it has such a negative impact on an organization that I have to put it into the dumpster fire category. And here's why. The real dumpster fire is because it's a systemic problem. Sales leaders not dealing with it. It's not going away. If it's not a one-off deal, this has become pretty much a pandemic, if you will, in which salespeople decide, I really don't want to be involved in the sales training. I see that a lot with veteran guys. They're telling their boss, who might be a younger person, this is not for me. Listen, I've been around 20 years. I've forgotten more than you guys know about this nonsense, that kind of thing. It exhibits in a number of ways. Some people who just have an aversion to sitting down in a classroom and being required to learn, especially, big left turn, especially if you do role play. Oh my goodness. People just not up about role play. Well, it's always uncomfortable the first time or two, but after a while it becomes, it's nothing happens. I mean, I'm just learning. I'm watching other people do presentations, learning from their phraseology and their approach, and we're working together to get better. After a while, it's no big deal. I mean, so it's very much like the first time you hear your own voice that's recorded and it doesn't sound like you at all. And it makes, you're like, I can't, that's me. Wow, that sounds awful. I can't do that. And then after you've heard it 3 or 4 or 5 times, okay, whatever. Who cares? If that's the way people hear me, the only person that's freaked out by it is me. I'm the only one hearing it differently. Well, here's the reality. If you're going to solve this problem, first off, as I mentioned in the opening segment, you have to hire the right people, which means you have to find learners. You have to set very clear expectations. And sales leaders, training is non-negotiable. It just is. Don't allow your people to schedule over it. You say, listen, we're going to be in a training scenario for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever it might be, 2 hours, 30 minutes. I don't care. That spot is blocked on your schedule. We won't schedule appointments. All of these things. On occasion, you have somebody out on PTO. On occasion. What are you going to do with that? I mean, that's reality. Okay. So it's, if you have 10 or 15 salespeople on your team, scheduling salespeople to meet everybody's current schedule can be a challenge. But what I do is schedule it far enough out that the calendar's empty. I try to stay away from high, traffic vacation time, certainly not doing it around holidays. Even in the summer, sure, you're going to have some PTO potential there, but instead of doing it around Memorial Day or Labor Day or 4th of July or something like that, put it in a different deal. If you create a schedule where you do a quarterly training and listen, guys, this is how we grow and develop. This is how we improve. This is how we create leveraged advantage over our competition in the marketplace, and everybody's got to be a part of this. And if somebody schedules over it, then what I do is have a conversation with them. Listen, we had this planning, or this training planned rather, and you scheduled over it. What happened? Well, this is my number one account, and they said, they needed to meet with me. I can tell you 99.9% of the time, that's absolute garbage. They're using it as an excuse, and they're making it work to manipulate you because it's my number one account, don't you know? Certainly can't upset the number one account, can we, Mr. Sales Leader? Well, here's my answer. Next time when they call, tell them, listen, I apologize in advance. You're very important to us. There's nothing that we won't do to try to take care of you, serve your needs, do everything we can. But 10 o'clock to 11:30 on that Thursday, I have training engagement, and I can't miss it. It's corporate. You know what big account's going to say? Okay, so when are you available? 99 times out of 100. Okay, when are you available? I mean, are there exceptions? Sure, but everybody wants to make the exceptions the norm, not happening. Okay, so that's an expectation you create. Listen, when we schedule sales training, I expect you to be there. I expect you to participate. I expect you to be prepared. I always expect you to bring a notebook to keep notes. I am 100% shocked at, and I see it all the time. I see it when I'm training sales teams. People will come into the sales training, nothing to write on, nothing to take notes on. And, savvy sales leaders now are saying, hey, phones off, and let's put your laptops away, because they know what they're doing. And if somebody says, hang on, I take notes on, one of the many applications available, then okay, I just make sure I want everything off. No email, notifications are off, do not disturb, the whole kit. Okay. But I will tell you, having a notebook, and I mean, it could be an iPad, right? I mean, you could carry your iPad around, keep your notes on that. Fantastic. But it's got to be a requirement, because that's who we are. And many times I'll say to people, hey, let's go back to the training we did second quarter last year, and we talked about these issues. We're struggling here. Let's go back and review some of those things. I expect them to be able to go back and pick those things up. All right? Again, this is all created by you, the leader. Listen, if you're the leader, you get to establish the boundaries of what we do and what we don't do. So that's fine. That's not micromanagement, people. Micromanagement is telling people exactly how to do their job every time, looking over their shoulder, criticizing everything they do. That's micromanagement. Setting boundaries? That's like telling the refs it's unfair because there's out of bounds lines on the football field. I mean, come on. You create the boundaries. But here's the critical element of training that I don't want you to overlook. I mean, the single aspect of training that just goes right by a lot of people. When you're doing training, it's not training that you really want. It's learning that you really want. In fact, let's go a step further. I want people to change behaviors. Now, the real breakdown in training, the place where you've really systemically must pay attention, is that when you provide training, all you're doing is providing exposure. You're exposing your team to new ideas, new thoughts, and so forth. That's why coaching is taking that training and helping them implement it more effectively, more consistently. That's coaching. To me, training is new information, new ideas. First time I get exposed to it. But exposure in and of itself will not change habits. So if your thought process is, I can bring somebody in to help with a particular selling skill, or I can do the training, or maybe somebody on my team has got this particular habit and they do it very, very well, and I'm going to expose the rest of the team to it. Exposing them to it doesn't change habits. Learning doesn't happen until you practice and coach, and you get on that feedback loop where you can see them practice it and you can provide feedback for improvement. If you as a sales leader are not providing the feedback loop, the practice and the improvement, and you're not actually observing this particular skill being implemented effectively enough times to the point where it becomes a part of their everyday habit, then we're really not learning. We're just being exposed to a variety of new ideas. The whole idea is that as I take that practice, I adopt it into my everyday work until it becomes a habit, hopefully taking me to mastery of that particular habit. You'll break down dramatically if all you do is expose people to a particular idea or concept or tactics or techniques or whatever one time. That's not going to work. Man, let's put this dumpster fire out. All right? Any questions? Feel free. Kelly at bizlockerroom.com. Love to talk to you. See you next time.
Sales Untraining is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.